I was working on this material, but I stayed up late last night and I was building a better noise library. So textures, noise, 6K. Alright. I created some 6K textures because it seemed like the resolution was a little low, and I kind of refined the process of generating these to get some better results. Okay. Alright, so we have a bunch of textures here. And now we can come back over here and we can get some useful things. Let's go ahead and grab 100. Let's grab 100 by 100 turbulence. Alright, remove any kind of this. We can just start previewing this node. I feel like those look a lot better. Okay. After doing that, oh yeah, you can already tell a difference from these textures. Pull it down. Multiply this by 1.5, multiply this by 1.5. We'll save that and take a look at it. Ooh-ha, 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 ooh-ha. Okay, so that is the instance. Turn all of this off. Yeah, that looks good. Gonna probably have to revisit the color gradients because like this, I think is gonna look really good. Yeah. Alright, so the only thing this needs... Oh no. Process still get cold. Okay. We crashed.
Hello and welcome. We have a Star Citizen October 2022 update for you today. What's going on through October in regard to that many servers running because of the nature of them being able to restart the server and actually review the sort of server information across. Means they'll probably need less servers and servers should be in a much better state. This is the first implementation. They've got loads of plans so that you'll have like shard affinity in the future, so you'll get back on the same server that you were on. But it's a prerequisite to things like server meshing, base building, exploration, and a huge amount of other systems which are now built into it. We've got salvage. It's hull stripping salvage at this stage. There's more salvage types to come in the future. But we've got the Vulture and the Reclaimer that are going to be able to do this. The Vulture's also released in 3.18, and we're going to be able to hull strip ships and then use that material to repair ships using a multi-tool.
Waiting on it to restore.
Attachment for it, salvage attachment for it.
Yes, that's from the crash.
As well, you'll be able to salvage destroyed wrecks of
Quite a bit of 6K textures.
Also, they will spawn in wreck. If you've got a chrome stat 1 or 2, then you're going to be able to land without being attacked, typically, at landing zones and pay off those as fines at fine kiosks. You'll also be able to surrender at fine kiosks to get 20% off your working on that internally. Now, what other content plans have we got for October? Well, we're going to be covering everything about CitizenCon and Alpha 3.18 features and anything that's sort of related to that. But when it comes to 3.18, it's going to be non-Evocati PTU stuff. Even though there isn't any Inside Star Citizen until the end of the month, we still have Star Citizen Live and roadmap updates from Cloud Imperium, and they're going to start to hype the Intergalactic Aerospace for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids He's controlling the lasers. Hello and welcome back to Freaky Goose. I'm Mike, and today we're doing a thing. Who are we going to?
Okay, there's a lot of you. Do you what they actually are? Usually reference. Here rather than doing.
God, it takes a million years to restore all this stuff. Waiting. I'm gonna find a good video to watch. Ooh. Yeah, we'll watch the Red Letter Media Creep Show review,
Josh,
sure.
it's October.
Oh man,
We're definitely not shooting this in September.
I don't even care if we are, Jay,
Oh, okay.
because we're so ready for spooky times.
It's true.
In
It's
America
true.
today, we are just overjoyed that it's going to be fall. The temperatures are going to drop, and
he's not wrong about that.
They're already here.
They're everywhere.
They're already here, and it's going to be time to watch all your favorite creepy movies. Maybe that one.
Including one of the best horror anthologies of all time, Creep Show, the movie about thin pancakes.
I thought you said quiz show.
Surprise! We're going to talk about Quiz Show.
I didn't watch quiz show. Oh no, the
My
Robert Redford
favorite
classic.
Halloween film. No, we're going to talk about George Romero's Creep Show.
Yes, an absolute classic. This is easily one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Probably my favorite horror anthology out there, I would say. I grew up on this one.
Well, I love horror anthologies. They're perfect for this time of year because it's basically like having a movie marathon that doesn't take 8 hours.
Thank goodness, hey.
It's just- you get a little variety of things.
I don't have to binge a whole season of a show. I can get some nice quick stories, get spooked out, finish my day.
I think that's one positive of this. 5 stories. It's like 2 hours, which maybe is a little long, but I think 5 is a good amount of stories.
Yeah, you really don't want to spend too much time on any particular one. And that's the thing about this one, where a lot of anthology movies, including one we'll talk about in a little bit, one definitely stands out over the other. And this one is I don't think any of them stand out over the others. I know some people don't so much care about the Jordy Verrill short, but I like that one very much as well.
Oh, that one's great.
I love that one. I know people get bitchy about Stephen King's acting.
Jesus!
Oh, it's perfect.
It's perfect for that role.
It may be the best performance that's ever been in a motion picture. Possibly.
Wow, all right.
I know that's a bold statement, and I'm going to stand by it.
Okay, let's talk about that.
All right. Well, Creep Show is directed by the late, great George Romero.
We love him very much. We've talked about him before.
Yeah, we talked about Martin, underseen, underrated, one of his best movies.
Absolutely.
Martin, we talked about that shortly after he died.
Fingers crossed for that 3-hour version.
Oh, yeah, that was discovered.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it since, but it does exist.
But yeah, so we did Martin. Mike and I talked about Dawn of the Dead. Talked many times about his later movies as examples of bad social commentary.
Yeah.
But we'll ignore that. This is one of his best movies.
Yeah, this is when they let the guy make a movie he wanted instead of a movie about zombies.
Yeah, well, there are zombies in it, though, but it's not a zombie movie.
Exactly.
It's an uncharacteristically stylized movie.
Yeah.
And it comes kind of like at the halfway point in his career. There's the early, more independent stuff where he was just wild with the way he made the movies. I love seeing behind the scenes footage from Dawn of the Dead. You're just running around getting shots, using overhead lights, just getting all these angles, and then crafting a scene and editing. And that's how he made movies. Very fast and loose, low budgets. He had his Pittsburgh crew.
Right.
And then this movie, a little bit higher budget.
It takes some of that run and gun stuff and really makes an ass out of it, even more than Dawn of the Dead in certain ways, I think. Because, you've got these really stylized things, you've got those planned out, but those are, you shine a light on a background. That's cheap.
Yeah. But, so this is the collaboration of many celebrated horror-related people.
Yes, well, Stephen King and George Romero were pretty tight at the time, I guess, and they've been talking for quite a while about working on something. He and Stephen and his wife Tabitha show up in the crowd scenes in Night Riders, which was right before this one, apparently.
Yes.
So they're working together on stuff, and I think this one was actually scripted completely by Stephen King. Right?
Yeah, the script by Stephen King. The second movie is stories by him, but the script is by Romero.
And one of those he should be ashamed to claim as a story, at least. At least one, maybe two. But we'll get to that.
I'm curious now. I don't know which ones you're alluding to.
Oh, The Hitchhiker. I mean, come on, that's a campfire story. That's not.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get the Creep Show too. I know you guys can't wait, but
Just be patient with us. We want to talk about a movie we like first. Sorry.
To be fair, I like Creep Show too, but we'll get into it.
Okay.
I also have I'm also very loose with my opinions of anthologies.
Okay.
Because there's always, and that's another asset to them, is even if you don't like one story, wait 15 minutes, another one will be right along.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Or in this case, I guess with The Crate, wait 40 minutes almost. That's the longest of them.
Boy, is it? Wow.
I timed it because I knew it was the longest, and so I actually went through and kind of timed it. It's like 38.
I think I'm gonna have to redo the color
I would've
variants.
thought that. But it does. It's. I suppose it's the one that really takes the most character development. You really need to establish Billy
Yeah.
as who she is.
It's getting there though.
Well, actually, we just got here.
You just come on with me. Henry, you stay here till I get back.
Yeah.
Well, that's and the character work with her husband and all
Yeah.
that, and that's another thing with anthologies is you don't have a lot of time to flesh out your characters, which is why it's okay that Stephen King is super over the top because you understand that character within the first 30 seconds of that short.
Oh yeah, come on. What do you need to know?
Yeah.
Really. Well, and Stephen King is really good at building characters in short stories. In reading his stuff, I've always been a bigger fan of his short stories because I think he's very good at these little quick portraits.
And good at ideas.
Yeah.
Creepy ideas.
Yeah, follow through depends.
Don't end your epic coming of age children's story with a giant spider. Just don't do it.
Well, cut back on the blow. I mean, that's step one here.
Okay.
A lot of things could happen.
Well, I wouldn't recommend that because if he had cut back on the blow, we wouldn't have maximum overdrive.
You can! We made you! We made you!
Anyway, Creepshow.
So not the first anthology, definitely not the last. They've kind of become a lot more popular in recent years, I think, because you can make these short little things. You don't need a long crew for a long shoot. But yeah, you have like Trilogy of Terror, and then the 70s, the British horror stuff.
Right.
Amicus Pictures, and Asylum, and they even did, like, this is based on the old Tales from the Crypt comics. There was an actual Tales from the Crypt movie made in the 70s.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, a British movie, and so that was the inspiration for this, was those old EC comics, William Gaines, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror.
Yeah.
Very kind of campy, colorful.
Oh, the sense of humor was absolute. The narrators, the Crypt Keeper and the Witch, they were hilariously funny. It took the content for granted, and it basically said, "Hey, chuckle at this because it's okay to chuckle at it."
But yeah, those comics, George Romero, Stephen King were fans of those, and they wanted to make a cinematic equivalent of those, visually and the types of stories being told. Again, like I said, uncharacteristically stylized for George Romero. We have
Yeah.
lots of inspired by his buddy Dario Argento. We have the colored gel lights.
But also from the comics, where it's very, it was monochromatic backgrounds meant to like show off the faces or like in your particular spot. Like,
Yeah.
oh god, this thing's emerged out of the box, and you get that reverse shot in the comics. Like and the light,
Some sort of design on the background,
Yeah.
some sort of shape or pattern.
yeah, something that's not just the room.
Right.
And he's definitely pulling from that, as well as Argento, certainly when they've been working together on Dawn and
Yeah, Argento tends to, though, sometimes he'll just like bathe the scene in a color, and there isn't any real justification for it. It's just kind of a stylized choice.
I think just because he thinks it looks pretty.
Yeah, and he's usually right. But in this movie, it's usually
Yeah, like
for,
this
like, a
is not gonna look good.
your brain blanks out the details and you focus.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a moment in the trailer, the original trailer for this movie,
Mm.
where they have like texts, like comical text come up on the screen. It's like, shiver at the sight of whatever. And then there's one of, we didn't mention Leslie Nielsen's in the movie.
Oh, the stars in this movie. We'll
And
get to
there's
that.
all the stars are here.
Hey.
Look up.
All the stars are here.
It's true.
Beardy man.
But there's a shot in the trailer where it shows him being frightened, and it says, cringe!
Cringe.
And given how the word cringe has kind of evolved over time, I'm surprised that that shot hasn't been made into like a GIF or just a screenshot and used as a meme.
Yeah,
in our modern times.
Because as I remember, if you pull up the IMDb page, that's the frame that is frozen from the trailer. But yeah, talk about the stars we got for this movie. We got Leslie Nielsen, fresh off the police squad.
Who are you and how did you get in here? I'm the locksmith. And I'm the locksmith.
Yep, we got Ted Danson just about to get huge on Cheers. Ed Harris shaking his moneymaker.
Oh, man.
Oh, love that. Love that. I love that. I love that he even took the time to show up for the documentary all these years later. Serious actor Ed Harris, not ignoring his roots. God bless him for that.
Not ignoring it, but also not taking it very seriously.
Oh no, well it's not a very serious role.
The documentary is called Just Desserts,
Mhm.
and it's, I don't know, it was made maybe 10, 12 years ago,
Fairly
maybe a little bit longer, but yeah, it's just a retrospective feature-length kind of behind the scenes. And they interview Ed Harris, and he's like, because he was the lead in Knight Riders, the
Right.
Romero's previous movie. He's great in that.
Yeah, he's
And,
just. I mean, at that point, he's just a Pittsburgh local.
Yeah, but by the time Creepshow came around, he was, a rising star in a lot more things. But yeah, they interview him for that documentary, and he's just like, I did it because
Oh, yeah, that's true. Look
I
good.
don't really know what's going on. It was fine.
That's why it was fun. It was just kind of goofy.
But that's one of the highlights of the kids in that first story, which we can get into. Talk about Father's Day.
Father's Day. This is, if I had a complaint about the movie, it's that there's two different stories that are about people coming back from the dead for revenge.
I think that works for me because because something that tied you over is so quick. They've been dead for like half a day and they're back.
Yeah.
They are, depending on the time. I don't even know if they've barely managed to drown. It's that quick. But whereas Father's Day is a long time coming. You get the feeling that Vivica Lindfors has been out in that grave for a long time, many years.
Get a backstory. These yuppies, the dead father, killed with the ashtray.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure why that becomes a motif. That ashtray shows up in every segment.
It feels like it's just for fun.
I guess.
Honestly.
I guess.
It's like, let's see how many places we can sneak it in.
Yeah, just a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
It shows up. There's the new Creepshow series on Shudder. It shows up in random episodes of that.
Oh,
So
nice. All
they're
right.
Still using the
Sure.
ashtray.
Why not? It's a nice ashtray.
It's fine.
Jade.
Yeah, so rotting corpse comes out of the ground, comes back from the dead.
Man.
Classic looking ghoul
So good.
covered
I
in
love
cobwebs.
the Tom Savini and team effects on this movie. They're so good, top to bottom. I'm still thinking about that just all that sticky every time he moves his mouth and the sound design on his voice.
Yeah, I don't
Which I
even know how
just
you
love.
describe what that filter is or what they do to that voice. It's so like warbly and
Yeah,
weird.
and muddled and but still very intelligible. And it's a simple story. Fella just wants his cake. He's been denied it for many years.
This is a case where there's no good characters because the family are bad.
All assholes.
He's an asshole because
Yeah.
he's just constantly, "Where's my cake?"
Right.
Alright, so now we want to do some color array, or some colors.
Demanding jerk.
And she finally gives up and loses it and caves his head in.
Okay.
Like, okay, it wouldn't be as interesting if it wasn't for the payoff.
I got my cake.
And the score famously, or I don't know if it's famously, but to me it's recognizably reused in Eli Roth's Thanksgiving trailer.
Yes.
He reused the score to that sequence from Creepshow.
Brief sidebar on the score, because it's one of my very favorites. It's so simple and so good, because clearly John Harrison, who went on to direct a bunch of episodes of Tales from the Dark Side.
Yep, another George Romero regular.
Yep, does a bunch of TV stuff. He's in Effects, the weird
yeah.
Romero offshoot movie.
Yeah, all of Romero's Pittsburgh buddies made this movie about making a movie.
Yeah, weird little movie, but I liked it a lot.
It's good. I like it.
But so he's just got a few keyboards. He's got a couple of synths. He's got a guitar. You know, I don't even think he has like a drum machine. It's very stripped down and immediately iconic. Like it's just stuck in my head. I'll sit and listen to the soundtrack without watching the movie, and I don't do that with a lot of soundtracks, particularly instrumental ones.
Yeah, well, it captures a very specific tone that the movie's going for, which is spooky / campy. Doesn't take itself too seriously, but it has that feeling of like.
I mean, yeah, and that main theme has got like the playful, like la 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 la, and stuff like that works in, but still doesn't, hesitate to when the shock moments happen. Just turn those oscillators and go.
And I swear to God, if you ever
It helps to set the tone quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because you're keeping that balance throughout. Acting wise, it must have been very difficult. If you're not Stephen King and you're not just playing to the one note.
He knows what he needs to do.
He's doing it just fine.
It's not super serious.
But how easy it could have been for Adrienne Barbeau to just be like hateful and awful and like really just too much.
Yeah, nasty in a not fun way.
Yeah,
to watch.
yeah.
And she captures that perfectly.
You're a regular barnyard exhibit. Sheep's eyes, chicken guts, piggy friends, and shit for brains.
There's other actors in the movie that are playing it a little more straight, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that helps the tone if they're playing it completely straight, and it just makes it kind of funnier.
But E.G. Marshall, in the last one, he's playing it straighter at first because he's the character that kind of supposed to have it together. He's a businessman. I mean, he's got his quirks, obviously, but he's played it straighter than, say, Leslie Nielsen, who just the lunacy just clicks up a little bit more every scene.
Oh, he's great in those.
Oh my God, he's so good.
Because as a kid, I knew. I mean, obviously, he kind of famously was a dramatic actor until he started doing like Zucker Brothers stuff.
Oh yeah, he was in all these westerns and action movies. And all sorts of stuff in the 60s and 70s.
Sci-fi films. But I grew up with him on Airplane, Naked Gun.
Yeah, slapstick.
So seeing him in this, I was like, oh, he's surprisingly serious in this, and that was weird for me. When in reality, at the time this was made, that was still pretty early into his sort of comedic renaissance.
Yeah, it really hadn't gotten to it kind of took till the Naked Gun movies, really, I guess, because obviously in Airplane he's playing a wacky character because of it is, but he's playing it straight.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry I have to wake you. You a doctor?
That's right.
But something to tide you over. We get some swamp zombies.
Yeah.
We get some Leslie Nielsen giving VCR tech tips.
Some of these cables are loose, Harry. I'm surprised you didn't notice a change in the quality of your picture.
We get some real close insight into the early 80s closed-circuit television. Apparently you can run those cables a long way.
Yeah, those are some long extension cords going all the way down the beach. But even for as kind of campy as a lot of this is, that's really horrific. The way he just buries them up to their
sadistic
up to their their necks and lets the tide take over.
Yep.
And that's the best, especially with like a short story or the short segments of an anthology, where it's like, you don't have a lot of time to communicate information. So getting something across that is so relatably scary or creepy. Like that segment, like being buried up to your neck and
it's relatable,
drowning,
and it's everybody knows, like that instinctual like survivor, back in your brain. It's like that. Ooh, no.
Even like before the drowning, when there's like a crab coming up to Ted Danson's face, it's like
yeah, just
fuck that.
Man. But that's also a good example of the campiness, because you've got that one shot of Ted Danson with his hair floating and clearly in a fish tank. He's just like, bloop, bloop.
It's a great video. I love this stuff. Now just look at the quality of that picture, Harry.
Somebody!
opposite in that his love interest in that is Galen Ross.
In one of her 3 movies ever?
Yeah,
Is it 3?
it's weird. She did this movie because she was buddies with George Romero. She was the lead in Dawn of the Dead.
Did a fine job.
I love her in that movie. I think she's really good. And then this, obviously, and then her only other acting role is the low-budget slasher movie Madman, where she doesn't even go by her actual name. She has a pseudonym for that film.
Was that around the same time, or was that later?
Yeah, it was around the same time. It was, I think, between Dawn of the Dead and this.
Okay.
But just those 3 movies, and that was it. She went on, she's a director now, she does documentaries and stuff.
Okay, maybe she just did not care for acting.
Do I miss acting? Not at all.
It's just interesting that she's in one of the most like famous horror movies of all time with Dawn of the Dead, and she's really good at it.
Yeah.
And really she has a really unique look. She's very expressive. She's got those big eyes. And
Yeah, and she even comes across great, even though she's in makeup or she's on a TV monitor in this.
Covered in water.
Yeah.
Sure, George, you're my buddy. I'll come be in your movie, and then you practically drown her.
I mean, I think it was after Creepshow. I was working with George, and we were filming the scene on the beach where I'm drowning. The wave machine is coming over my head, and I see George sitting, and I said to George, it looks a lot better on the other side of the camera. And that's when I decided maybe I should not do acting anymore. Maybe directing is where I want to be.
But Mad Men, for the longest time, there was stories and rumors that because she has a different stage name in that movie. There's stories that she doesn't if you see her at a convention, don't talk about Mad Men. She doesn't want to talk about it. And so it was this whole thing. Well, but then Mad Men was recently re-released on 4K from Vinegar Syndrome.
Of course.
Fucking Mad Men's on 4K.
Plus Vinegar Syndrome. Oh my god.
And they do an interview with her, and she talks about it. She has no problems with it. It's just one of those things that becomes a story and then it just becomes reality because people repeat it enough.
Yeah, to this day, I don't really know if John Cusack won't sign One Crazy Summer poster.
Oh yeah,
I know they say that, but I don't know.
He probably would.
He probably would.
Especially now.
Well. All right, so second one is...
Second one's Jordy Vale.
It's right into Jordy Vale. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Meteor ship.
But this is and this is what works about this, is I mentioned that there's 2 stories about people coming back from the dead. But each segment, it has a consistent kind of, stylistic thing going on. But each segment is very different in terms of what's going on in the story. First one, we got a classic corpse coming out of the ground. This one, we get a man turning into a moss man, a plant monster.
It's very 50s nuclear.
Yeah.
Atom bomb scare kind of stuff.
Right.
It really rips off that, and I love
Complete
that.
with some kind of old-fashioned matte paintings towards the end of it, when the plants are starting to devour, out past his house. Who knows how far it's going?
Contagion is coming.
Yeah,
it's coming for you. It's the thing. The thing in the original movie was a plant, right?
That's true. Yeah.
There you go. And the only, anything that you would think would make you feel better is only going to do you worse. And drinking the whole pitcher of vodka and orange juice is, that's trouble.
That's a wonderful moment when he pours the vodka into the pitcher and then mixes it with the bottle itself.
And then just leaves it.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Nothing matters anymore.
That sequence also has some of the best sort of out of context visuals, his fantasies about going to the bank or going to the medical school.
With the huge tilts.
Yeah, major Dutch angles, and both characters are played by the same actor.
Yeah.
But there's the skeleton, the medical skeleton in the background just floating by.
Right, and the doctor is scooting by on the chair, and all that stuff. And it gets... His visions get progressively wackier as this everything goes on. But this is the good comeuppance. He's an innocent. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he gets too greedy.
Yeah.
And oh boy, that's what happens. you grow moss down there.
Oh no, not there!
Stephen King's character in that is that he's a fuck up, and he fails at everything. So the end of that segment, when all he's doing is like, please God, I want to shoot myself in the head. Don't let me fuck this up.
Yeah.
Like, it's
How
so
fucking relatable is that?
for as goofy as his character is, that's so tragic. It's so sad.
But it's I mean, you just let me get this one fucking thing right.
Yeah.
Everybody's had a day like that at least, you know, if not a whole life.
Well, that's his whole character is in that predicament because, you know, he touched the meteor shit.
Should have known better.
Should have left it alone.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, even just the simple effects at the end of this one, where he's just, you know, he's more plant than man at the end, and he's got to get that shotgun up to his mouth, and then it just blows into like kind of fleshy dirt.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's not super gory. The whole movie in general isn't really gory because it has that kind of old comic book feel to it, where everything's just stylized enough where it's not too realistic.
I mean,
which is different for Tom Savini at the time because he was at that point he was doing, you know, Friday the 13th and The Prowler, all those, where his whole thing was making really attempting to do very realistic stuff.
Yeah, and I figured this would honestly be pretty fun for him because he's in a whole different workspace. He's working on costumes, working on applications.
A whole animatronic creature.
Yes,
which was new to him.
And that one, boy, well, I mean, number one, I was going to say that's probably the most gory one because, well, it kind of has to be because it's all teeth.
Yeah, they really have to emphasize the savagery of this monster.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to make that gory.
Yeah.
In a more kind of realistic way.
Is it Furry?
Fluffy.
Fluffy, that's it. Fluffy.
That's the nickname Fluffy.
Man, and that animatronic, like, it's not like I think it's real, but also if that thing cornered me in a fucking alley, oh my God.
That's the way they shoot it and the way they light it.
It's really good.
They know not to show it too much.
No, like the close-ups of obviously the teeth, but the eyes as well.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, he's creepy.
And yeah, that's the crate. Mm-hmm. That's our third story.
Well, no, the third one is the Something to Tide You Over, which we kind of talked about. I think there was even, when they were editing the movie, that was a thing of like, which order do we put these in?
Oh, probably.
And I think they do a good job of, because like we mentioned, the crate is the longest one. So you kind of build up to that.
Yeah.
And then you have a shorter one after that that's just pure, visceral, disgusting. You end with that one.
Oh, you're not topping that.
Yeah. That's like the grand finale.
Yeah.
Makes sense to close out with that one. And then get back to your wraparound, which we haven't really mentioned yet.
Oh, we gotta talk about that too.
The crate is Hal Holbrook is married to Adrienne Barbeau, and she's just the nastiest person.
Oh, she's just foul.
An
just
awful,
mean.
foul, vulgar, drunk lady.
And to the point of hilarity, where it's just like...
Oh yeah, she plays it perfectly over the top. This is one of my favorite, maybe my favorite performance by Adrienne Barbeau. But there's...
It's up there for sure.
But speaking of the MPAA, like, I'm assuming this was a ratings thing, because there's a moment, it starts, they're at like a party, like an outdoor party, and it's a, kind of a fancy upper class party. But yeah, she's making a scene. She's drunk, she's just so swearing, and you guys don't have a drink yet, and all this. But there's one moment where she very clearly, she's talking about like an etiquette person.
If you just have your ashes fall, you wouldn't have to spend all this time playing Emily Vanderbilt.
Oh, like a Heloise or a...
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Ann Landers.
Emily Van Buren.
But she calls her a cunt, but it's dubbed over with crotch.
Whoever that etiquette crotch is. Excuse me.
And it's very obviously dubbed over as crotch.
Crotch is not the same word at all.
Yeah, but it's so clearly ADR. Where it's like, I guess you can have, monsters ripping people's throats out in this movie, but you can't say cunt.
Whoever that etiquette crotch is.
So they ADR'd that. So it's always stuck out to me as being so obviously ADR.
That's really, such a strange... Why that, of all things? But, who knows what terrors lurk in the minds of the MPAA.
Yeah.
Oof.
Which is this is mostly unrelated, but now it's just the MPA, and I don't know when this happened.
It is?
Within the last few years, I've noticed at the end credits of movies, it'll say MPA, just one A.
Oh.
So now I think it's just the Motion Picture Association. It's not of America anymore.
Well.
I guess.
Man, I suppose they have to get things okay for China now.
Yeah, maybe that's related
Maybe.
to it. I don't
Maybe it's a
know.
world. They have to be more concerned with the world.
I don't know when this happened, but yeah, in the last few years I noticed it's just MPA.
Whoever that etiquette crotch is.
Yeah, so this is the most violent segment of the movie. as
Oh
you
yeah, it's the
mentioned.
most bloody for sure.
Even at that cocktail party, Hal Holbrook has a fantasy about just shooting her in the head.
Oh my god.
And that's again with the unnatural lighting where you know you've entered a fantasy because now all of a sudden there's red lights blaring for no reason. You get this surreal
my
moment where
nose, my
everybody's
nose, my
lightning
nose.
applauds.
And yeah, he discovers this crate under some stairs.
But that crate makes an appearance, a cameo appearance in the classic film Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. It's just in the basement of the Voorhees house, which never existed in any of the previous movies, but but it's a reference, so put it in.
God damn it.
The Necronomicon makes an appearance in that movie too.
Sure.
Because the
Just
director,
fucking-
the guy that made it, was like a 20-year-old horror nerd.
Is
Apparently
that
not
one
a
of
fan
those-
of the Friday the 13th movies,
I
though,
guess not.
because it has almost nothing to do with Friday the 13th.
Is that one of those movies where every character is named after a horror director?
I don't think so.
It seems like it should be.
But yeah, the crate has, turns out there's a monster in it.
Oh shit.
We get Fluffy, the Tom Savini creation, which when you look at like other, I don't know, this was a lower budget movie, so you look at other animatronic creatures from that era, it's a little more primitive, but for Tom Savini, it was
looks
a major
amazing.
step up.
It looks great.
Yeah, like we said, the way they shoot it, they don't overdo it. It's perfect for this segment.
Yeah, there's certain brief flashes of like the whole face. It's not very often at all.
But
It's not
oftentimes it have red light on it.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know.
Yeah, it's not like you see it lumbering
All right,
down
let's
halls
try
or
this.
anything.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, almost immediately, Hal Holbrook is just, how do I get her over here? he has a crisis of conscience, and he discusses it with one of his colleagues. But
His co-conspirator, Fritz Weaver is the actor's name. Not David Gale from Reanimator, even though he
Right.
looks exactly like him.
right, oh my god.
But there's a weird moment. This is where, because Hal Holbrook is, you know, he's pretty
All
I feel
right.
bad for him. He's a little sad sack, can't stand up for himself. His wife is awful. You get like secondhand embarrassment for him at that cocktail party. But his pal Fritz Weaver's at the party too, and there's a weird moment where he's just like flirting with presumably a student, this young blonde girl. Just a little moment where it's like, okay,
A little flavor, a little character flavor.
yeah, just
Just
a
a
moment, because he doesn't have much else in it, so that's fine.
He's ostensibly there to talk his colleague down from doing a terrible thing, but
Doesn't work. And we get more weird drinks. We have Stephen King pouring the bottle directly into the
oh yep,
container
yep.
of orange juice. Here we have milk and booze.
Let's try slapping a contrast
Goddamn disgusting.
node.
It's the grossest thing in the movie.
I don't want to get down on our rum chata drinkers out there.
Oh, rum chata's good,
See, there you go.
but that's not a whole glass of milk with booze poured into it.
No, it is not. Yeah, it's funny. There's almost a through line for a minute of booze, because the thing that wakes the father up is she pours whiskey on his grave.
That's true. Yeah.
Water of life thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't know if he doesn't have a drink while he's watching the TV. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And then of course, in the last one, yeah, there's no booze in there. it all falls apart.
That's yeah.
There's nothing. There's nothing to this.
And the wraparound, which we haven't mentioned.
Oh yeah.
With, another John Carpenter regular, Tom Atkins, is the
Completely
dad.
uncredited. God love him.
Is he uncredited?
I believe so. I don't remember
Oh,
seeing
weird.
the credits, or maybe he is now. Maybe he wasn't at the time. But yeah, he just shows up in time, for enough time to drink and hit Stephen King's kid in the face.
Yeah, a little cameo by Stephen King's real life son, who now is known as Joe Hill, writer of The Black Phone. But that's what kicks off the whole story. Is he has the Creepshow comic.
Yeah, and then he looks out the window, and the creep is out there in the trees, and I love that's another. Just a simple puppety thing, but you put it out there in the trees and get the right light on it.
Well, and it's clearly like floating. It's
Yeah.
not like they just put it on a stand
No,
and animated it. Like it's like hovering. It's
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of like the vampires outside the window in Salem's Lot.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
sort of like
The
floating there.
consistent movement.
It's very unnatural and
Yeah.
creepy.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. But so that's the Creep, which he's now known as, and he's sort of the host of the new Creepshow series.
Oh, does he talk in this one?
He doesn't.
Good.
You can't have him talk because then you would just be compared to Tales from the Crypt.
Isn't enough bouquet. Almost reminds me of a good scream sherry.
The Crypt Keeper, which in the original comics looks nothing like what we think of when we think of the Crypt Keeper. And no one can compare to the Crypt Keeper, especially when he raps.
This is the Keeper. I have a tasty treat, inviting you all to a feast.
Yes, he's probably my second or third favorite horror rapper. I mean, Freddy, you know.
Well, you can't top Freddy's rapping, yeah.
My name is Frankie, and I'm here to say, I'll rap away. Fall asleep when you wake up dead.
So the crate segments, almost every segment, the movie has 4 editors. And I was surprised to learn this. I didn't know this until looking up stuff for this review. But the crate segment, which is the longest one, like I said, it's almost 40 minutes. And it's edited by Paul Hirsch, who famously was one of the editors on the original Star Wars. And he edited Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
Like, oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
You can see why they would let that one go longer. Like,
Sure. I'm always fascinated by editors in general and how they can jump from genres and projects, and it's really just about the construction of the film.
Yeah, well, one of the editors is George Romero, who I've always said that's one of his underrated qualities is his editing. I think we mentioned Martin, some of the home invasion sequence in that. How
So
just,
good.
Precisely edited it is.
I've got this blood problem. Once you get blood, you never get rid of it.
So we're down to one story.
Almost a one-man show.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely a tour de force.
It's nice especially coming after The Crate, which is the longest segment. It's the most kind of elaborate as far as like building the characters, and now it's like, before we go, one more story. We saved the most disgusting for last.
Oh yeah, this is definitely look at what I chewed up. The story.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
But yeah, like I said, it's almost like a one-man show. It's E.G. Marshall, who been in tons of movies throughout like the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, just one of those great working actors.
12 Angry Men, but I know him as the dad in Christmas Vacation.
You know, they took a pint of fluid out of my lower back.
But yeah, he's a wonderful bastard in this.
Mm-hmm.
I love that whole. I mean, the outside premise is that he's a businessman who has driven someone high in his organization to suicide.
Yeah.
And he gets gets a call from that guy's wife.
Who gave you my private number? I'd like to fire him.
It was in my husband's address book, you son of a bitch!
Well, I can't fire him, can I?
And I love the way he plays it, just so good. Well, obviously he's got other things on his mind right then because he's already spotted the first cockroach.
Yeah. Well, he's a germaphobe.
Yeah.
Doesn't leave his apartment. And that's another, like, visually it's different than the other stories and how could a star.
I think these
Yeah,
look pretty
totally
good.
locked in. And yeah, he's locked in his apartment. He's made all the money in this world, so he doesn't have to go outside, and everybody takes care of him. And he hates bugs, and I wonder where that's going to go. But the idea is that he's getting his comeuppance after being a bastard and making money off the backs of other people for 50 years or something like that.
Right. Well, and he's racist.
You might go far, White. I've noticed that in service jobs, people like yourself often do.
The guy outside his apartment was in Dawn of the Dead.
Oh,
He's,
yeah.
The two guys that are bickering on TV at the beginning.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. Another Pittsburgh actor. But it's subtle. Like, I mean, you could just see it as like another way of showing that he's kind of an asshole and being racist. But it kind of similar to, I guess we'll talk about Creepshow too. But the final segment of that, race plays a part in that in ways that are kind of subtle. It's not like too overblown, but just this idea of like a character that kind of thinks he's above everyone, above everything.
Yeah.
No matter how better off you think you are than everybody, bugs are just going to consume you from the inside out.
Yep, sorry.
Whoops. And I love hearing on that Just Desserts documentary, hearing stories about the cockroaches.
Oh,
They
God.
import them from, where did they get them from?
They sent 2 entomologists to Trinidad to collect the roaches. And according to them, the roaches live in bat shit. They would dig a hole in the bat one. I mean, in deep. They would put their arm as far as they could, dig a hole, turn the lights off, wait a minute, turn the lights back on, the hole would be filled. with roaches.
But it's like they had to import all these cockroaches, and you can't train cockroaches.
No.
You can't control them, so you just kind of have to like keep them in a container and let them loose when it's
Yeah.
time to yell action.
Which is why it's brilliant in a way that they're basically at one
It
point
is
they're all
true
kind of
that you
in this
cannot
room
control
or in that contained space.
Oh yeah.
So you can really build up like the
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about because they're all locked up in there. It's okay. But yeah, I'm gonna say in there it's easily the most expensive thing in the movie.
Yeah. Well, and there's because similar to Evil Dead 2, the sets for this movie were made in a gymnasium.
Yep.
So they built the set for that whole segment in a gym, and there's just talk of like, yeah, we did our best to keep the cockroaches contained, but you can't keep that many cockroaches contained.
No.
So they're tearing down the set and just see cockroaches scurrying. A guy came to pick up like a cherry picker that they were using for the movie or something, and then, they knew there were cockroaches inside the machinery, but they're like, just let them take it.
Saying it, well, is that ready to go? And you think, I was like, tell him? No, it's fine, go ahead, take it away. So somewhere in Green Tree, there's probably Trinidadian cockroaches still roaming the earth.
Stephen King is not in the documentary, and I don't I don't think he has any. I think he's proud of the movie. I would assume because he remained friends with Romero for years, but I never hear him talk about it. I don't think I've ever seen him give like an interview where he talks about Creepshow.
Yeah, no, I wonder if maybe that's in that era of just like he doesn't have a lot of memories of it. Because there's a whole lot of
too much booze, too much drugs.
All right. I think this will work as a material for the moment. So now it's time to start building a sphere. I'm going to go fill up some water. Oh, actually, I need to go make lunch. So I'll be back in a little bit.